Coaching in Session,
your exclusive destination for unparalleled personal and professional growth.
With your host, Michael Rearden.
Whether you choose to live within limits or break free, your mindset journey begins here.
Welcome, Hilary Spiritos to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
Great. I'm having a great day today. I'm really excited to speak with you. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for asking. I talked about this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. I'm like recovering from like a crazy yo-yo flu is what I'm calling it. It's like you're good and then you're not good. And I know today is going to be a good conversation. So I know this is going to make me feel 100% today. So I do, again, want to thank you for coming on. Today, we're going to be talking about your work, Pathfinding Coach. And this is essential in our world today because there are so many people who have an idea maybe of what they want to do, but they're not fully invested in finding out. They say, well, we'll see what happens. Maybe they allow circumstance to befall them. And maybe they find themselves, the unlucky few, down the road, maybe with a college degree or two, and they don't love what they're doing anymore. So to have someone to say, hey, let's make sure we get the choice right the first time, or at least make sure we're doing something that we won't regret later on in life is going to be a powerful tool for many people today. So if you could, can you tell the world who you are, what you do, and of course, how you help them?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that beautiful introduction. So my name is Hilary Spiritos. I have a business called Bat Outta Hell. It's a pathfinding consultancy. And my mission is to help young adults figure out who they are, what they want, what they're passionate about, what they're capable of, like really and truly, and then find and overcome their blocks, create an actionable strategic plan, and then develop the skills and tools that are needed to navigate their path and live their fullest, most authentic, fiercest, truest lives in a way that's sustainable for them.
When we start to look at some of the blocks that they might be dealing with, especially young adults, where would you say those blocks are coming from?
Young adults are living in a world where they are constantly trying to get a grip and get a grasp in a world that's constantly shifting and changing under their feet. So it's very challenging and it can feel very frightening. So a lot of these blocks can be psychological. So it can be, I don't feel like I'm capable. I feel like I'm behind. Everybody knows what they're doing, but I don't. I feel like what I want to do is not good enough, or that's not what success looks like. So there are all of these psychological or emotional blocks, but there are also, I would say, more tangible blocks that are as a result of social media or the COVID pandemic or helicopter parenting or things that those might not be the blocks themselves, but they come at the root, and they are things that help blocks fester and create the blocks.
Yeah, there are going to be many obstacles and limits that are going to be built from individuals, from family members, from teachers, from society. All of those things can accumulate into what a block could be for you. And it might not be your story, it's someone else's story, because someone else might have wonderful parents that are like Tom Brady's parents. It's like, hey, whatever you want, we support you. And then there's certain parents that, hey, you're going to be a doctor. You're like, oh, I don't want to be a doctor. But, that's the lineage of what they have planned for you. And so you feel siloed into your future. And the future is something I think many young adults, they're looking at today, and they're seeing the possibilities, but then they're also seeing the struggles that might come with the future job market, especially with all of the AI coming in. And I can't tell you how many conversations, even in the adult side of looking for work or trying to start up a business, they are putting themselves in a mindset that technology or AI is going to replace what humans can do. And so there's not going to be a job market if they're not careful. So many of the choices young adults are making are based out of fear for the job security that they could have later on in life. Are you seeing that with young adults also?
Yes. So the job market is very, very challenging. I was just reading an article recently that said it was maybe the most challenging since 2008, or it's just in a very, it's broken, actually. Let's just say it. The job market is broken. And part of that comes with AI, which is the way the world is going. We don't know, we don't understand. And also, it probably will, depending on how many years in the future you want to discuss, will probably replace some jobs in some sectors. I do believe personally that the world will become more human-centric the more AI we get. And I do believe that we as human beings will search out more creative, human-centric, empathetic relationships, like jobs and industries, that those will rise. Yes, the work job market is challenging for young adults, however, and for anyone. But it is exactly what you said. It is about the mindset, because you can't control that. And sure, if you want to create your own business, that's amazing. But there are challenges that come along with that, and some of those that you can't control. So it really is about, are you doing what you want to be doing at this time? Are you building something that you want to be building? Like, how can you sustain yourself while you're looking for a job? How can you gain knowledge and experience while you're pursuing the job market? How can you sustain yourself and your energy and your positivity while you are looking for a job? Are you engaging other areas of your life, whether it's community or volunteering or hobbies or whatever, so you're not solely focused on the job hunt, and thus, like, if that is up and down, you feel that completely, but you instead are spreading that out so you feel joy and highs in other ways. I mean, we didn't elect to engage in this. We didn't elect to be born. But as you are here, I want people to live their fullest, fiercest life in a way that they enjoy, in a way that is meaningful to them, in a way that feeds them, in a way that they feel like they're not living someone else's life, or in a way that they're not feeling empty or disappointed, or that they are so lost and they don't know what they want. So I think it's important to engage that mindset. And also, the more that you are out there in the world, the more that you are networking, the more that you are volunteering, the more that you're playing sports or engaging with your hobbies, the more that you are talking to people. And the chances are that you will find potentially a job or a partner or whatever you're looking like that way. Because it seems like maybe with AI and with the broken job market, just sending your resume straight in is not the way to do it anymore. So it's also important to kind of think outside the box and try new ways to kind of get your message out there.
Yeah. I know you could do the traditional way of looking for jobs, going to the websites and Indeed and Monster, if it's still there. I don't know if Monster's still there, but you have so many job fairs, especially in bigger cities, New York, LA. You can go to a job fair and there's hundreds of jobs available, and it might not be a career for you. It might just be a means to an end. You want to be able to pay your bills, have a roof over your head. And many people, they get caught into, I guess you can say, that rat race of what they do for a job or for work. And you brought up something great early on. You talked about the passion that someone should have or could have when they're pursuing a career for themselves. And a passion is great. For example, I remember me when I was a teenager and I was like, okay, what do I want to do with my life? And the passion of mine at the time, I was really good at numbers and accounting. I was getting like really good grades, and I was advanced in math and all of those things. I got internships at big corporations and companies and worked in accounting departments, 18, 19, making a lot of money. And that was good because of my skill set, but the passion wasn't there. I was going in and I was dreading it. I was like, I don't know how people do this. Like, this is soul wrenching work. And a passion of mine at the time was education, was teaching. And I was a swim coach at the time, and I taught some other things like guitar. And I was like, you know what? I think I just want to go into teaching, right? Like, forego the money at the moment. Passion was my silver lining. And I did it for some time before going off and venturing and starting my own business and everything that we have today. But it was it was a conversation I had to have from my passion versus skill. And I was very good at teaching, but I was also very good at other things like math and accounting and things like that. And so when people are looking for a job or for something to do, sometimes they could fall in line with the passion, how I did with teaching. And sometimes they can fall in line with what they're good at. Like, I'm really good at numbers, or I'm really good at science. Maybe I should do this, or I should do biology, or something along those lines. What would be your advice for someone between those two factors of passion and skill?
So that's a really interesting question. And so sometimes if we're lucky, I think those can overlap. I also think that generally, if you're passionate about something, the chances are either you're good at it, or you would do it enough times and because you enjoy it, that you become more skilled at it. So I think that that's definitely, a passion doesn't necessarily mean that you're good at it right away. It could just mean that you enjoy the act of doing it and thus build up skill. But I will say, I mean, this is different for everybody, and obviously every human being is different. So what might resonate for somebody might not resonate for somebody else. But what I would say is, think about what you really enjoy doing. Think about how you want to spend your time. Think about what you want your life to look like. And what are the qualities that you want to have in your life? Do you want to be around people? Do you want to sit behind a computer? Do you want to be out in nature? Like, these are bigger questions about, maybe you don't know exactly what you want to be doing, but maybe there are questions about how you want to exist in the world. Do you want to be of service? These go into also, what do you value? Do you value your family? Do you value being of service? Do you value money? Do you value status? Do you value living a bigger life? Do you want a small, quiet life? Do you want to be on the land? Like, what do you think about all these questions? And I think what's really important to recognize also, and you alluded to this previously, is so much of what we know about ourselves and this definition of what we want to do and who we are comes from our childhood. So we want to start unpacking, what messages have I learned from my parents that mean that, like, this career is good enough, or that this is what I should be doing? It's exactly right. Like, did I learn from a young age that I should be a doctor? Did I learn from a young age that I should make money? So it's a question of kind of separating that from the messages from what you learned as a kid, and recognizing that you might have a different definition of success. And then also, like, so many young people that I work with feel like they have to pick a career or pick an industry, and then that's it. They have to do that for the rest of their life, and that they are choosing what they want to do for the rest of their life. And one, that's in too much pressure. That would be paralyzing for anybody, but it's also incorrect. Like, are you doing what you want to be doing right now? Because you can and will pivot. And then also, you won't be starting from scratch. You will take what you've learned, and then you will transition that into another industry or job. So be a little bit kinder to yourself. Give yourself a little bit more grace. As a young adult, you shouldn't even know what you want to be doing. You're still learning. So just try to be a little bit calmer and kinder about it.
Yeah, very true. I like the phrase you use, pivot, and it's a phrase I love to use also, pivot, because you can map out your future so much, and at some point you're going to have a maturing day or a factor that's going to jolt your life, and it's going to give you a new perspective on things. It could be a trauma, it could be a blessing, it could be an epiphany, it could be something, right? And is this something that just helps you understand a little bit more about yourself and a little more about the world? Because when you're young, especially teenagers, it's you versus the world. And you got your peer groups, and you're mature, or you think you're mature, and you know everything, right? You know it all. I don't know if you have ever worked with teens or even middle schoolers. Jesus, they're a mess, but it's a lot of fun to see them go through this and learn. And I think one of the best things to do for these young individuals is to have support systems for them, safety nets, if you want to call it that, where you have a coach like yourself, or if you have a teacher or a mentor or a coach or someone to say, hey, I see what you're doing. I like what you're doing. Maybe we can do something differently. What do you think about this? So it's just giving them alternate perspectives rather than being siloed, because we all have blind spots. And it's difficult when you're a teenager to listen to your parents for an extended period of time, because at some point they become uncool and coof, and now you just want someone else. You want someone else to come in and give you their life and to be an example for for them in their own rights. And so when we start to look back when we were teenagers, what was something that you wish you had that you didn't have?
I think I wish I had somebody to talk to that wasn't family, friends, or a therapist. And that's exactly what I aim to be. And that is exactly the space that I occupy. Because as you said, like parents can't always relate, especially in the world of today. And friends are going through it the same as you, and they're not objective. And your therapist, like you might not need a therapist. You might not have a mental health condition that needs to be diagnosed. And so as hopefully well-meaning as all those groups of people are, it would be helpful to have an objective near peer person who's been through it and understands what you're going through and can help discuss this with you and be a support system and be a confidant and be like in your corner and can help you recognize what your blind spots are. And I think I definitely went through periods of time where I felt lost and didn't know who I was and what I wanted. And I would have really been benefited from somebody who I could talk to in that way, for sure.
Yeah. And not every mentor I found growing up, especially, is made for you. You should find mentors that are going to be able to listen to you and then also to understand your ambition. I was extremely ambitious, for example. And some of the mentors that I had, they didn't see my ambition as real, right? So let's say I was a young Elon Musk or something, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be launching rockets into space and we're going to go colonize Mars and we're going to do all these things. And they might say, listen, let's be realistic, right? Let's just get our 9-to-5 job. And it wasn't vibing with me, right? I was like, but there's just so much possibility out there. Like, why are you telling me that there's not? And we could just think of stories of people who have done amazing things. The Wright brothers, for example, all the naysayers saying, hey, you're not going to be able to fly. So why are you even trying? The people who were basically burned at the stakes for being witches, for thinking that there is going to be cellular waves one day where you can wirelessly connect with someone across the globe. And they were like, that would never happen. That's witchcraft. So it's a different mindset at different times. And today, the possibilities are almost endless, where if someone says something, it is plausible, especially if you can believe it. And it's very similar to what Napoleon Hill says, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. And Henry Ford, very similar. Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you are correct. So it's these mentalities that are paving the way for the newer generation. And I believe that the newer generation is going to be able to do things that the older generations once perceived as impossible. And so one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, with this shift happening of the mindsets of the unimaginable or the things that are impossible today, that the newer generations are coming up and saying, wait, like, it's possible. I can see it, plausible. Do you see that opening up new opportunities and new things that maybe you might not be able to foresee, but only they can?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I would for sure say that I'm sure that they have ideas of what they want their life to look like and what they believe might happen that I might not be able to see. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in it, and that doesn't mean that I don't support it. But people might have different abilities to believe in what they want their life to look like. What I would say is, I think it's really interesting to note that, yes, this younger generation is dealing a lot in, like I can build my own company and do this, and I can make this happen and invent this. And that might not have been something that people even allowed themselves to think about in previous generations. But what I think is interesting is that with social media comes this comparison that everyone looks like they're living their best lives by the time that they're 20 years old, and everyone looks like they're billionaires by the time that they're 20 years old. And so there's a flip side to that. There's an idea that you're never going to reach that, or there's maybe an inspirational aspect to it that you want to reach that, but you feel like you're behind, and that you feel like everybody has cracked the code and that you haven't. So I think there's a bit of the younger generation, yes, they feel, and young adults feel like they can do anything, but they also feel like everybody knows what they want and is ahead of them and they don't know, or they feel like everybody's watching and waiting for them to slip up. And if they post something or if they do something embarrassing, there's a real big cringe culture about, like, they don't want to say anything that might be either too boastful or seen as silly or seen as embarrassing. So there's this kind of idea of maybe not reaching so high, or not at least outwardly telling anyone that you want to do something. So there's both sides to the coin that young adults are dealing with, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting, the world that we're progressing through, where at one point people were worried about war, nuclear war, and now people are worried about if someone's going to say something that's going to get them canceled. And it's two extremes, right? One's life and death, and one's just a mindset, because you don't have to live in a world where you are vying for likes or that everyone needs to like you. And I understand that peer acceptance is a lifeline for teens, especially, and especially young adults in general, because they want to have this sense of belonging and this sense of identity. And it's something that I think they go beyond to the extent of who they are initially. So they know their name, they know maybe what they want to do. But then if we get down into the values, if they get down to what they want for their future or retirement, they might say they want to retire early, for example. And I couldn't imagine retiring early, not because, the beach is not nice, but like, what would I do? And I know for a fact, from seeing my parents and my grandparents, the moment you don't give yourself a purpose, like true meaning, you start to deteriorate. It's very similar to learning, right? If you're not learning, you're dying. And this idea of, they think that there's a stopping point, that if we get to this point in life, things will be good. And this is a common mindset between young individuals today, because they think of being rich, for example. They will ask someone who's rich. They'll say, hey, how do you do it? And they will ask a question of saying, is it easier to be rich or is it easier to be poor? And you might think, well, it's easier to be rich because you don't have to worry about your bills. Everything is paid for. But then if they flip the question now, the rich person says something, says, do you work harder now that you're rich than you did when you were poor? And most of the times they answer, I work harder now than I did when I was poor. So it's like this mindset of they get to take it easy when they get to, to this point in life, to this finish line. And so my question is the facade of the glory, the facade of success. And you brought up something great earlier, like success is going to be different for everyone. And some might say success is living in a big house. Success might be having a lot of money, being able to be a remote nomad, to travel every single month or something along those lines. But when we start to look at it with a lens of, like what you truly want, is money the key? Is money the answer that people should be looking at, especially in our world today?
So you actually brought up a lot of points that I want to touch on. So
I'm going to touch on all of them.
the first thing I would say is that there are many people in today's world that are dealing with life or death situations. So I think it's really important to recognize that it's not like that used to be the case and it is not the case anymore. The world it's a challenging world right now. So I think it's important to recognize that there are some real life or death situations and there are broken systems, but also I understand your point in that there are people who are there's a lot of mindset shifts, and there are a lot of challenges of like, what do you believe? What are other people telling you to believe? All of that. I will also say that I think it depends on what you value. I think there are some people who value money, and that is great, and that is fine. And I think there are some people who value other things, and it is getting to the question of what you truly value versus what other people have told you to value, or what messaging you receive from other people, or from your family, or from your friends, or from your other members of your community, or television, or whatever it is. I think it's getting to the root of what you really want and what you really value. But in the same way, it is important to be able to sustain your life. So if you want to do something, then maybe you need to do something else to make more money. I have definitely worked multiple jobs in my life. Maybe you need to have a job that allows you to sustain yourself and sustain maybe your family, or whatever it is. And then maybe you need to cultivate your hobby on the side. So I'm not saying that there's one right way to do it, but I do think it's important to recognize that passion is wonderful, but it's important to be realistic and just be able to sustain yourself in the world of today, which is honestly just getting more and more expensive for young adults. And what I will say, one thing that you noted that was really interesting was this idea of a stopping point. And I think it's the question of, there's this idea that we're all running a race, and at one point we'll get to the end and finish and like win. Or like, I'll get that big house, and then I'll be like all set, or what, like life doesn't stop. And then like what happens at the end of that race that you're imagining? So I think it's important to start living in the present, and like, am I doing what I want to be doing right now? Am I spending my time the way I want to right now? Am I building what I want my life to look like? Instead of feeling like, when I get that house, when I marry that person, when I make that money, I will be able to like chill and relax and be okay and feel comfortable. So I think that's important to recognize. So I think that's just a very nuanced question that I think is different for everybody. And it just depends on who you are and what you value. And that's what I help people get to the root of and recognize.
Yeah, very true. And there's so many cups of tea, and I call coaches cups of tea. And Coaching in Session is a platform where I bring on other coaches just like yourself, and where they help people with different aspects of their life from different ages, groups and things like that. And they get to figure out who's the coach for them. And people might have seasons where one coach might be better for them than another coach. For example, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm definitely more mean than anything, but I'm nice. Like I talk to people nice, but I'm very strict. Like, hey, like we're going to do this, right? Like, let's get it done. And I like to put people into the category of, do you kind of want it or do you want it? And that's how I do it, right? Because there's a lot of people who want the goodness. They want the great things. They might give themselves this ambition, but they don't see it through. So I call people who do that people who kind of want it. And of course, there could be something that happens in their life that switches them that switches their mentality or switches their thinking. But that's, something that they would have to go through. And of course, you can get coaching, you can get all these programs, and yes, they can be helpful. But at the same time, like, you have to be the one to do the work. You have to be the one to change. Like, for example, I'm not sure if you've ever been in like in a bad relationship, and maybe you had a yearning for the person to change. You can't make a person change, right? That's up to them. But of course, maybe you can be that beacon, you can give some influence, but at the end of the day, they get to make that choice. It's very similar to the saying of, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And it's the same mindset in the right of change. I like the idea of how you help people understand their values, and how you help separate the values of what other people are instilling onto them. Because maybe your parents didn't have a value of money, and they were flamboyant with the money. They weren't worried about retirement. And it was something in this. And then for the individual, maybe it's really a big thing. So they value that. Maybe health, you going to the gym or just being, hygienic, it was a big thing. But this is something that they have to do the work for. The question, or one of my last questions is, how do you help people find their values versus the values that they were given from others?
I think it comes through in conversation. So I think if you're talking to somebody and then, like, I'm talking to a client, and then at some point they'll say, that's not good enough, or that's not, like, that job or industry isn't what I want to be doing, and or that partner isn't like the right partner for me, or whatever it might be. And then you dig into that a bit deeper and ask, why is that? Like, and then maybe the answer, like, whatever answer you get is it true? Do you really believe that? Where does that come from? Like, we want to really get to the root of what the messages are that you've received and how those impact and influence your daily life. Because what really happens is, like, if you don't own your fears, insecurities, and anxieties, if you don't own these messages, then they are going to manifest in your adult life, because they are childhood feelings that manifest in your adult life, and they are going to block. They are going to impact how you live your life. And until you recognize that, and until you get to the root of these, then you're at the mercy of them, and you're going to feel, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. That's not good enough. I don't want to do that. And when you become conscious of them, what you can do is, when you feel that way, say, oh no, I actually want to do it. Or I don't want to bow down to those feelings. Or, oh, I don't want to live my life in that way. I want to do this thing regardless. And that is what I want to help people do. And so it's very hard to get to the root of those blocks by yourself, because those are blind spots. And so I think I deal with worksheets, we have conversations. It's difficult work. It's challenging work, and you have to be really honest, and you have to be really ready to do the work, as you say, but it's also joyous, and it's also fun, and it's also, like, really interesting to watch people realize, like, who they are and what they're capable of, and recognize that they are the captain of their own ship. And I think that is what's beautiful about the work that we do.
Perfect. And I think that's an important thing for individuals to understand, is that they have to, be the captain, as you said. And it's not going to be maybe as simple as 1, 2, 3, but it's going to be fulfilling if they can see it through, right? It's going to be joyous to see yourself grow and to see yourself flourish, or to see yourself accomplish the goals maybe that, you might have never thought you could reach. So, to have someone in your corner is going to be paramount to their success. And so as we begin to wrap up, I would love to get some final words, and then for you to also please tell everyone where they could find you, reach out, and begin working with you.
Sure. Yeah, I care so deeply about helping young adults find and walk their own path. And I think it's important to recognize that if the path already exists, it's usually someone else's. And so when you are embarking on your own path, or when you are walking your path and maybe come to a fork in the road or whatever, it can be frightening, and it can be overwhelming, and it's normal to feel like you don't know where to go. And it's normal to feel like you're paralyzed with choice, or scared, or unsure. And, like, I think that it's important to recognize that it's okay to ask for help. It's normal to feel these things, and to reach out is the way forward. And I think that not feeling like you should have it all figured out, and not feeling like by the time that you're in your 20s and 30s, like, you should have life all figured out. Like, what even is it? Everyone's trying to work on figuring it out. So I think it's important to recognize that. You can find me on various platforms, but my website is batoutahell.net. And so it's BATOUTTAHELL.net. And then my TikTok and Instagram are bat.outta_hell. And then I would love to speak with you. We can set up a time to talk and just have a consultation and see if it's a good match, and you can meet me, hear more about the work that I do and how I do the work. And then we can go from there, or you can schedule regular meetings with me or sign up for my 3-month Aligned and Alive course. So there are just many ways to connect.
All right, perfect. And I'm going to make it easy for everyone. They don't have to worry about spelling, or they don't have to do any Google searches. All the links are right down below. So just click on any of those links that you favor. Maybe you're a TikToker, maybe you're an Instagrammer. Who knows what you are, but you do. So reach out to Hilary on your favorite platform. Don't be afraid to connect, to learn how she can help you, to shine some light on some areas of your life that you might be curious about, because I know what you said is so true. There are going to be many paths in your life, and if there's a path that has been created, it might not be your path. So if you feel like you're on the wrong path, there is no shame and no harm in reaching out to someone to say, hey, let's look at my path to see if it's truly mine. And I know that Hilary is going to be a valuable asset in your corner. So I do want to thank you, Hilary, for coming on, spending some time, and of course, talking about your work today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.